If you're watching this right now, then brace yourself, because what you're about to hear is one of the strangest, most chilling and mind-twisting mysteries ever whispered about a Chinese celebrity. For the next few minutes, I'm going to take you into a hidden underground facility, forbidden archives, and eyewitness accounts that were never supposed to see daylight. This story reveals how YU MENGLONG, yes, the elegant actor loved by millions, was allegedly discovered frozen, preserved like time itself refused to let him go, and later transformed into something far more disturbing, a classified communist specimen locked behind steel doors. Stick around, because as the story unfolds, you will hear what the lone eyewitness saw when the frozen body began to move, how a government biologist nearly lost her mind after one midnight experiment, and why an anonymous insider risked everything to leak classified logs showing what they believed YU MENGLONG became. If you love mysteries, conspiracy-like fiction, and dark cinematic storytelling, then keep watching, because what follows will blow your mind. The rumor began the way most forbidden stories begin, with a terrified voice message sent at 2:47 a.m. A trembling man, completely out of breath, whispering into his phone, "I saw him. I saw YU MENGLONG inside the cryo chamber. He wasn't dead. He was frozen. Frozen like a statue, but breathing." And just like that, whispers began circulating through a tiny circle of insiders who claimed an unrecorded incident occurred years ago, hidden under layers of silence. No mainstream outlet ever touched the story, not because it lacked evidence, but because the evidence was too bizarre to release. To understand this nightmare, we need to travel to a remote research facility somewhere in the northern mountains of China, a place insiders refer to as Station Red 17. It wasn't marked on any official map. Even satellite images blurred out its coordinate. Only a few select personnel had access: scientists, military escorts, and what they called specimen handlers. According to leaked descriptions, Red 17 was built for one purpose: to preserve, study, and categorize individuals whose biological anomalies couldn't be explained by conventional science. And this is where YU MENGLONG's story allegedly took its darkest turn. The facility door was 3 meters thick, reinforced with cold steel and layered electromagnetic locks. Beyond it lay a long corridor glowing with dim red lights. The deeper you went, the colder the air became, as if the building itself were inhaling winter. But the most disturbing part wasn't the temperature, it was the silence. Every step, every breath, every heartbeat echoed back tenfold. It felt like the walls were listening. One guard, who later resigned and vanished without a trace, described the atmosphere as standing inside a freezer full of ghosts. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared him for what he saw when he entered Cryo Hall 03. There, in a massive glass chamber surrounded by heavy machinery, lay a figure unmistakably recognizable even in the pale frost. YU MENGLONG. His eyelashes were crystallized in ice. His lips were slightly parted, but no breath escaped. His skin looked almost polished, like marble sculpted by an artist obsessed with perfection. Yet here's the twist that made the guard drop his clipboard: YU MENGLONG's chest was rising and falling. Slowly. Rhythmically. As if caught between life and death. Frozen, but breathing. The guard didn't speak to anyone for 3 days. What terrified him most wasn't the sight itself, it was that the scientists around him acted like what he saw was normal. According to the leaked testimony, one female researcher approached the frozen figure and whispered, "His core temperature hasn't dropped for a second. This specimen is resisting us." Resisting. That word changed everything. Because according to Station Red 17's protocol, a specimen was usually someone who was intentionally frozen after being declared medically deceased. Their bodies were meant to stay in a suspended, irreversible state. There was no concept of breathing. There was no concept of warmth. A specimen was supposed to be a specimen, not a living paradox. So why was YU MENGLONG the exception? Some insiders believed he wasn't supposed to be frozen at all, that something catastrophic happened before the procedure even began. One rumor said he collapsed on set during a film shoot and was secretly transported, but there was no public record of such an incident. Another said he voluntarily entered the cryo program to preserve his life due to an unknown illness. But the most bizarre claim came from a scientist who defected. YU MENGLONG showed biological markers we've never seen in any human. His cells refused decay. His body temperature remained constant even under extreme freezing. It was as if he had a second pulse, a second heartbeat. A second heartbeat. Now the plot thickens. Researchers reportedly tried every method to understand the anomaly, from thermal imaging to genetic analysis, but each test returned results that contradicted natural science. YU MENGLONG's body was simultaneously frozen and active. His brainwave readings appeared faint yet detectable, flickering like radio signals trying to reach the surface. One log entry, allegedly written by Dr. Chin, read, "He is not dead. He is not alive. He is something." Paused. What truly shattered the research team's composure happened one night during a routine cold system recalibration. The power fluctuated. Alarms flashed blue across Cryo Hall 03. Temperature controls malfunctioned, and the chamber's internal frost began melting at a rapid rate. Dr. Chin, who was closest to the console, panicked and sprinted to the emergency lock override. But before she could reach it, she heard a sound, soft, fragile, but unmistakably human. A gasp. She froze in place. Another gasp. Then a faint whisper pressing through the fogged chamber glass. "Where am I?" she screamed. Other researchers rushed in, witnessing YU MENGLONG's fingers twitch against the glass. For a moment, his eyes opened, revealing a clouded grey glow, as if his pupils had turned translucent under the freezing chemical mixture. And then, just as quickly as he awakened, everything shut down. The room lost power, plunging the chamber back into its cryogenic state. By the time technicians restored functionality, YU MENGLONG had returned to complete stillness, frozen once more, the frost reclaiming him as if erasing the moment entirely. After this incident, the facility classified him as Communist Specimen X21, a designation used for anomalies that were both politically and scientifically sensitive. It wasn't a pun, it was a category used to shield such cases behind impenetrable confidentiality barriers. Inside Red 17, a communist specimen didn't refer to political ideology. Instead, it meant an entity held under state protection, controlled study, and total secrecy for reasons related to national scientific advancement. This turned YU MENGLONG into something far more than a celebrity. He became a state anomaly. The research intensified. Scientists began isolating what they called his thermal resistance gene. They noted how his frozen tissues didn't fracture. Instead, they behaved like liquid crystals, forming patterns, then dissolving, then reforming. No one could explain it. The only theory was that YU MENGLONG possessed an evolutionary quirk, something non-existent in ordinary humans. But not everyone believed this was natural. One anonymous technician claimed that YU MENGLONG wasn't abnormal before entering Red 17. Instead, he believed the facility tried an experimental cryo-enhancement procedure gone horribly wrong. According to him, the experiment altered YU MENGLONG's body in ways even the researchers hadn't anticipated, accidentally creating the very anomaly they were now studying. This theory led to the darkest rumor of all. That the reason YU MENGLONG was frozen wasn't because he died, but because they couldn't control him after the experiment. In one alleged incident, recorded only in erased digital logs, YU MENGLONG reportedly awakened unexpectedly, causing electrical surges that disabled the entire cryo floor. Security footage supposedly captured him standing, frost falling off his shoulders, while researchers fled in panic. His eyes glowed. His breath filled the air like smoke. He looked directly into the camera, and the footage abruptly cut. There was no verification, no evidence, only whispers. But the next day, armed personnel surrounded Cryo Hall 03, and after they left, YU MENGLONG was frozen again. From that moment on, no researcher was allowed near him without military supervision. The scientist who witnessed the Midnight Awakening retired suddenly, claiming severe psychological trauma. In her final, anonymous note, she wrote, "It wasn't a human awakening. It was something evolving." The mystery deepened when a former facility janitor, a man who mopped the hallways but wasn't supposed to see anything, confessed that during one late-night shift, he heard humming. Not mechanical humming, but melodic humming. Like a voice trying to remember a song from the past. The sound came from Cryo Hall 03. He ran. Within days, surveillance logs were deleted, personnel were reshuffled, and the janitor was transferred out of the facility, never to be heard from again. The scariest part? Every person who claimed to witness something unusual described the same detail. The voice they heard from inside the chamber didn't sound frozen. It sounded warm, alive, aware, and longing to speak. What happened next became the final straw for an insider who later leaked dozens of encrypted messages. According to them, on the night of the facility's biggest blizzard-induced power outage, the main cryo system went offline for 11 minutes, the longest in Red 17's history. During those 11 minutes, multiple sensors captured movement inside chamber X-21. Not random twitching, deliberate steps. Footsteps inside the chamber. A hand pressed against the glass. A faint outline of a human figure, standing. The temperature rose 5 degrees higher than scientifically possible. After the power returned, YU MENGLONG was frozen once again, but now positioned differently, as if he had turned to face the control room directly. Researchers and guards reported feeling watched. Some refused to enter Cryo Hall 03 ever again. That was the moment one scientist coded her final confidential note. If he ever wakes fully, he will not remain here. Something inside him is waiting. And so the legend of YU MENGLONG, the frozen performer, the breathing statue, the classified communist specimen, continues to haunt those who once walked the silent halls of Station Red 17. Did he evolve? Did he survive the freezing? Was he changed by an experiment gone wrong? Or is he still inside that chamber right now, waiting for the next power outage? No one knows. But those who claim to have seen him swear that his eyes still open every few months. Just long enough to remind the world that something extraordinary lies beneath layers of ice. The story doesn't end with that first shocking discovery. In fact, what happened after YU MENGLONG's frozen body was first witnessed is even darker, more breathtaking, and more unsettling than anything whispered before. Because once news of his impossible, half-living state spread through the hidden corridors of Station Red 17, the entire facility changed. The silence deepened. The lights flickered more often. And the people working there suddenly acted like they were walking on broken glass. They didn't call him YU MENGLONG anymore. They didn't even call him Specimen X-21. They called him the one who breathes through ice. And that alone shows how terrified they were. It began with the guard who first saw him, Officer Liang. After reporting that YU MENGLONG's chest was rising and falling beneath layers of frost, Liang was removed from his shift rotation, interrogated for 19 hours straight, and then reassigned to a section of the building that didn't even exist on the official blueprint. But before his reassignment, he said something to a technician that sent chills down her spine. He wasn't breathing like a human, Liang whispered. His breathing echoed. Like the ice itself was breathing for him. From that moment on, the technicians started noticing strange things happening around Cryo Hall 03, things that couldn't be explained, even in a facility designed to preserve anomalies. The temperature inside the hall never stayed stable. Sometimes it plunged far below the programmed settings, freezing the walls in thick, spiky frost. And sometimes it rose slightly, just enough for droplets of melted ice to form on the chamber glass, droplets that slid down slowly, almost rhythmically, like the chamber itself was sweating. But it was the sound that came next that no one could forget. A faint tapping. At first they assumed a machine was malfunctioning. Metal expanding or contracting in the cold. But when an engineer went inside the hall to inspect the source, he realized the tapping wasn't coming from the walls. It was coming from inside YU MENGLONG's chamber. Tap. Pause. Tap, tap. Like knuckles brushing against the inside of a coffin. He ran. He didn't even finish his report. He threw his badge on the counter and never returned to that wing again. But the higher-ups didn't panic, not yet. They assumed the tapping was a glitch, a frozen muscle contracting. Except frozen muscles don't contract. Frozen bodies don't move. Frozen vocal cords don't produce faint humming that sounds eerily like someone trying to speak inside a frozen tomb. And that was when Red 17 brought in Dr. Wenjiari, the woman known secretly as the gatekeeper of impossible biology. She wasn't surprised when she saw YU MENGLONG's frozen but breathing figure. What shocked her was how warm she felt when she placed her gloved hand on the chamber's glass. Frozen chamber. Frozen man. But warmth through the ice. Impossible. What are you? She whispered. As if answering her, a soft white mist formed on the inner part of the glass, shaping into what looked almost like the beginning of a fingerprint. Then, slowly, it vanished again. Dr. Wen staggered back. She didn't run. But she didn't dare approach the chamber again that day. According to later transcripts, she wrote, "Something inside that ice wants to speak. It feels aware, responsive, almost intelligent." After that note, the security protocols around Cryo Hall 03 intensified dramatically. You could feel the fear thickening the air like smoke. Guards posted extra shifts. Cameras monitored the hall from every angle. Biometrics were installed on all entrances. They claimed it was for facility safety, but everyone knew the truth. They were terrified of YU Menglong waking again. But here's where everything escalates into nightmare territory. One evening, the entire right wing of Red 17's Cryo sector lost power for exactly 14 minutes and 22 seconds, longer than the infamous 11-minute incident. Emergency lights flickered red across the corridor. Sirens blared. Researchers scrambled to reboot the system manually. But in those 14 minutes, several cameras inside Cryo Hall 03 captured something they were never meant to capture. A shape moving behind the thick frost. Not stumbling. Not spasming. Not jerking like a man frozen stiff. But walking. Deliberate. Slow. Purposeful. When the chamber regained power, YU Menglong was frozen again, but now his entire posture had shifted. His hand rested against the glass. His head tilted slightly. And his hair, previously stuck flat with frost, now had strands out of place, as if moved by warm air inside the chamber. A scientist fainted on the spot. Another quit the next day. But the facility continued documenting everything with scientific precision. Their logs became more desperate, more frantic, more confused as the days passed. Log entry X21 displays an internal temperature rise inconsistent with cryogenic containment. Log entry X21 appears to resist freezing at the cellular level. Tissue regenerative patterns do not match human biology. Log entry: we detected vibrations within the chamber. Frequency similar to human humming. Humming. Soft, sorrowful humming. Like someone remembering a distant lullaby. One night, during a brief visual inspection, a technician reported hearing a whisper that made the hair on her arms stand up. It was a single phrase. "I remember." She froze. She looked around. No other scientist was speaking. The guards stood silent, watching their monitors. The whisper came again, softer, curling into the air like breath escaping from cold lips. "I remember." She ran out of the hall crying. From that moment onward, rumors spread among staff that YU Menglong wasn't just in suspended animation, he was conscious inside the ice. Aware of time passing. Aware of the cold. Aware of them watching him like an experiment instead of a person. It was this turning point that led to the classification that changed everything. He became an official communist specimen, sealed under state secrecy, protected and studied like an asset too dangerous or too valuable to release. But here's where things get disturbingly intimate. Dr. Wen Jiayi, still shaken yet fascinated, decided to attempt something forbidden: vocal communication. She stood close to the chamber, her voice barely above a whisper, and said, "YU Menglong, can you hear me?" For a long moment, nothing. Only the mechanical heartbeat of the cryo machines. Then, a sound. The faintest creaking of shifting frost. She swallowed hard, leaning closer. "Do you understand me?" The frost on the glass fogged slightly, a tiny oval shape as if someone inside exhaled lightly in response. She stumbled backward in shock. She hadn't imagined it. She couldn't have. From that point, the facility's anxiety reached its peak. People refused to enter the cryo wing alone. Guards began carrying sedative injectors they were never trained to use. Even the air felt heavier, the kind of heaviness that tells you something in the building is not asleep, not dormant, but watching. And watching is exactly what the security cameras later confirmed. During one routine maintenance cycle, the lights flickered for 3 seconds. Only 3. Yet in those 3 seconds, The internal camera of chamber X21 caught something horrifying. YU MENGLONG's eyes were open. Wide open. But not the soft brown eyes fans remembered. These were a pale, icy grey, glowing faintly under the frost, like two dying stars trapped beneath the ice. Worse, his gaze was locked directly on the camera. Not drifting. Not unfocused. Direct. Intentional. When the light stabilized, his eyes were closed again. Frozen solid. Motionless. But no one could forget what they saw. The footage was erased within minutes. All personnel were threatened into silence. But rumors spread, bouncing through corners and ducts like terrified whispers. He's alive. He's aware. He's evolving. Something inside him is waiting. The last straw came 3 days later. Cryo Hall 03's internal temperature dropped lower than any machine had ever recorded. Low enough to freeze metal pipes from the inside. Low enough to frost over the security glass so thick it looked like sculpted ice. But even in that deathly cold, one thing refused to freeze. A single warm tear-shaped droplet melting down the inside of the chamber glass. No scientist could explain it. No machine malfunction could cause it. No theory could justify it. Except one. Dr. Wen said it first, voice shaking. His crying. That night, the facility sealed chamber X21 behind reinforced steel doors. No more direct observations. No more close-range monitoring. But late at night, when the vents were silent and the halls empty, some claimed they still heard something through the metal. A slow, soft humming. A whisper. Or sometimes, breathing. Not machine breathing. Human breathing. The breathing of someone waiting to wake up. Waiting to be released. Waiting to speak. And that is where part 1 truly ends, not with answers, but with the chilling realization that YU MENGLONG's frozen state may not be a preservation. It may be a countdown. If this story gripped you, shocked you, or left you with goosebumps, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps bring more thrilling stories your way. Now tell me in the comments. Do you think YU MENGLONG is conscious inside the ice? Why do you think he whispered "I remember"? What memory is he holding on to? And if he ever wakes up fully, do you think he'll be human, or something transformed? Drop your thoughts below, I'll be reading every comment.